Welcome everybody again to the Worthy Rally for Hope and Kindness. It's number 25 today. Can you believe it? 25 on the 25th. That's pretty special. And no, I did not plan that. So that's pretty cool. And I am so happy to have another round of amazing storytellers today. I just am so humbled by all these people that I meet either in person or online through my many wonderful communities through LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter. And most of these people, probably like 95%, I have never met in person. And it's funny how if you let life just in the journey guide you, you happen to fall into the right people that you are meant to connect with at the exact perfect time. And this is just exactly what this is. People ask me often, how do you find all these people for the rally? How come you haven't repeated a speaker yet? And I'm like, well, let's take a look at how many humans are in this planet. I don't think I can basically run out of humans of different people in my lifetime if I do this once a month. So my goal is to always just expand and invite every single human that is willing and ready to share their story to come on to Worthy. So today, again, our goal is to inspire and empower. So by our speakers telling their stories, they each have 10 minutes. I want to remind everyone, please, some of these people may be telling their stories for the very first time, which I'm extremely humbled. And if they do, they may be going back through a time that may not have been that great in their life or will bring up some feelings. So I ask you to please support them through either an old-fashioned heart or a heart emoji, or just show them that you hear them, you see them, you can connect. If you see them having a hard time pushing through a story, or even if they're saying something that you can really relate to, or want to thank them that they said that, show those heart emojis. We're here to support each other, which is why this is all about hope and kindness, that people can go on, will go on, and we are here to support each other. So as always, I come on here not knowing what I'm going to say at the beginning, because I purposely let my mind guide me. I believe really wholeheartedly in the journey, and that I'm meant to say what I'm meant to say at the perfect moment. And today, what I woke up with is the last month has been extremely hard for me. I always, we all have challenges, and everyone has things that they're going through all the time. But this particular month, I found myself falling into a depression that I hadn't seen in a really long time. Meaning back when in my teenage years, when I was suffering from depression and I had to get some help for it. So I felt myself going in that direction, and I thought that was gone long time ago, but it came, and it was one of the darkest moments I've had. Things that came into my mind, which I didn't know where they came from, and I just wanted to give up completely. Now, what prompted all these things is just things that I have been going through personally, and one of them being a divorce. And I'm in the final stages of that. But the thing that broke my heart completely was I have 3 children, and my little one, she all of a sudden, we used to be best friends, and she's just completely cut me off. She lives with me, but she doesn't want to have anything to do with me. And it just breaks my heart because I go back to the times when she would ask me, "Mommy, do you want to play with me?" And I was like, "Hold on, Mommy's working," or "Hold on, I'll do this, I'll go play with you after this." And now I so long for those moments. And it's hard because I want my little girl back, and it's hard. It's like I lost my child. And that just spiraled into me going back to, I guess, old feelings and old moments of feeling in a dark place, which I thought were behind me, but it really made those feelings surface. And part of me, when I begin, the difference right now is that now I have more self-awareness and realization that I was going into that, where before I didn't when I was a teenager. So I kept asking myself what I did differently is, why am I going through this again? I understand, I validate your feelings of feeling this way because of your daughter and everything you're going through, but you are better than this. You can shoo away this darkness. There are so many things that are going for you. And believe me, it's hard because the darkness tends to overflow the mind. But then I also realized that that was meant for me to go back there for a reason. And the reason, I think, is for me to realize that people that go to that state of mind, it is extremely hard for them to snap out of it. And when you are in that state of mind, it doesn't matter what people say or what people do, you are paralyzed in that state of mind. And I came to a point where I'm like, I really probably, I may need help. I may need to call a certain number because I now I understand why people feel so paralyzed. And the next day I woke up and I was fine. And I didn't know where that came from and how it was gone so quickly. But I truly, truly believe sometimes life has a mysterious way of putting us in a place where to give us more realization so we can go back and, like me today, tell this story, but also share that in order for you to truly understand where someone is coming from, sometimes you have to be put in that position. And so with that said, I am very, very much more aware of those that are having bad days or those that are saying that they are suffering through depression. I truly understand, and I put myself in that place and try to realize the best thing I can do is just say, I see you, I hear you, and I'm here. Not try to solve anything, but say, I see you and I hear you, and I reach out, even if I don't know the person. I just wanted to share that. That was not anywhere near what I thought I was going to share today, but I wanted to share it with you all because life puts us in situations, regardless of what we want to feel or think or accept, for a reason sometimes, and we may never ever understand it, but there is always some sort of opportunity or silver lining. With that said, I have such a pleasure to welcome our first speaker. First speaker is Sheila. So Sheila, where are you? Sheila. There you are, Sheila. So Sheila and I have been connected for a while. I know, Sheila, you have been coming through these rallies for quite some time, and I've been eyeing you as a speaker for a long time, and finally our schedules coincided. And I am so excited to have Sheila, because Sheila is all about community, which is, oh my gosh, my passion as well, about belonging, about inclusion, and just breaking down invisible barriers so people can really, truly be themselves. Sheila, I'm so excited to welcome you and to hear your story today.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. You know, I'm a huge fan, and I haven't met anyone else on the panel, so I'm really excited that I got to be first, and then I get to like sip my tea because it's 8 o'clock in the morning in San Francisco. I get to sit back and sip my tea and listen to everyone's stories and just take notes and reach out to them later. So thank you so much. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit of my story, and I hope that it resonates or touches someone somewhere along the line, and that is helpful. This is also not the story I thought I was going to be telling or sharing with you all today, but in light of the recent Supreme Court decisions, I just, without going into the politics, I actually want to talk a little bit about my childhood trauma of being an unwanted child. My mother was married. She had 2 boys. She had actually lost a 3rd child and, at about the age of 1 or 18 months. And then she was pregnant with me, and her marriage was falling apart. And she was 7 months pregnant with me, and my father left. And that just set up this incredible, really traumatic wave for my brother and my 2 other brothers and myself. And, so I was born into an extremely stressed, I mean, this is the very late 50s. There were no options for my mother. There was no support in the community for, this situation. And I just was born into a situation where I will say that growing up, my mother never ever talked about our father. It was just us, but I was born into a situation where my mother was probably in a devastating depression. We were really struggled economically. It was not a happy beginning. And I knew, even as an infant, she used to say, "Oh, Sheila never cried." And that I knew better, right? So I grew up as the youngest child in a situation where I was not wanted. I was loved. I received love, but it was very, as my mother would say once in a while, the last thing she needed. So this was very, very difficult growing up. And I was kind of the emotional dumpster for her. It was just a very different relationship that she had with my brothers and with myself. And I thought all of this time that I actually, that our father was dead. And so to be honest with you, kind of romanticize that, as children, we fill in the gaps. So I had had this, I'll use the phrase romantic idea of, because I grew up in New York, and in their early marriage, they had gone and lived, they lived in Alaska, and they had this really adventuresome life. So I had created this whole sort of fantasy and romanticized version about how my father died. It was very traumatic. It was very, it actually involved him running from volcano lava. So, I had this whole wild picture in my mind about how he had died, because I didn't quite understand, that how babies were conceived. So anyway, I just, as I was a young child, would fill in these gaps, and I couldn't understand why there were arguments between my mother and her sister. I couldn't understand why there were different tension in the households. I didn't understand why we had been completely cut off from my father's side of the family. It was just things that I didn't understand. And then when I was about 13, through a lot, I had started to push my mom, and this doesn't make sense, or what was going on here. About 13, she asked me to go through some papers for her while she was at work. She finally found work. And part of that, and to sort them through and to get rid of certain things. And through that, I found out that my father was actually very much alive and well, and living back in Alaska and traveling the world. So that set up another, as a teenager now, that set up another dynamic with my mom. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is really about the scarring that children go through when they've had childhood trauma. And that can be in any kind of form, right? That trauma can be in all different levels. But there was so much the secretiveness, and then also really the pretty consistent message of not being enough. And that theme really kind of ran through my entire life, where we are doomed to repeat the lessons until we learn them, right? So I really went through I went through 2 painful marriages myself, never measured up. I always said I married my mother twice, because both my marriages, I was just never enough for them. I couldn't work hard enough. I couldn't be thin enough. I couldn't be smart enough. I couldn't be pretty enough, no matter how successful I was in my work and all of that. And I put myself through college and graduate school. And I think going back to actually what Andrea said about my being dedicated to community, I now work in connecting people to place. That's how I understand of people feeling like they belong and that they are heard and that their stories are told. And I think that my experience has something to do with that. But really what helped me heal was to, therapy, a 12-step program, and to eventually get to the point of learning that I was enough, that I am enough. And that really started for me getting rid of the toxic people in my life, a toxic work environment, and but not overnight. This did not happen overnight. This was slow processes and doing it in the pace that I could handle it, which was not always steady and consistent. Just like children have developmental stages. And I always look back at, I remember reading when my daughter was very young, reading a book about, childhood development. And there was like a warning in there that every time your child goes to make a major developmental step forward, that child may regress a little bit. So I kept that in my mind through my own process, that if I regress a little bit, or if I slow down a little bit in my journey of growth and healing, then that's okay. That is actually part of it. And I think for me, the big thing, I guess this is maybe sort of the message, is finding the willingness to look at my past, to look at my family, the situation, the different people involved, and to do that without judgment, which is not easy, to do it without judgment, and to be able to say, okay, this was the situation. That doesn't mean I have to take it on. I am not this person's emotional dumpster. I'm also not doomed to repeat history. I don't have to continue a life of secrecy or cutting people out or judgment or whatever it is that, I was thinking about. And this was really, really key for me, because I will say, for my healing, for sure, because it allowed me to step forward in a way that I can love every single person in my life. And I really do. And my brothers, well, I only have one that's still alive, but he and I have gone, he's the oldest and I was the youngest. And we had two completely different childhoods, the first like 10 years of our lives. And we've just had such amazing healing around this. And we can have these discussions, and he can respect my experience and I can respect his. And that has been remarkable. And a lot of this for me is to live your authentic self, to go through that process. You don't have to keep all these toxic people in your life, or you can make peace with them in your way. That is a healing way, and doesn't have to continue the toxicity. I also I think this was on my mind, was that not everyone will understand or accept you. And they are not your people. That if you have to constantly jump through hoops to kind of make points with someone, or fix them, or make them feel better, then that's sort of their issue. You can send them love and kindness. I always say, I send you love and light, and I'm dealing with my own thing here. And I want to, I think, close with this, and I'm paraphrasing. I'm sorry, I may really butcher this quote, but it's something of, acceptance is letting go of the idea that the past could have been anything different. And for me, we can look at our past without judgment, and we can move forward with an open, authentic self. And once we do that, certainly once I did that, my life has been amazing. It is nothing like I thought it was going to be like. not at all. Doesn't look like the plan I had laid out. It's better. It's bigger and it's awesome and it's amazing. And I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't know Andrea. I wouldn't, be going to these wonderful, love and kindness sessions without that. So we all deserve love and kindness. We can all carry hope in our own way. And I just wanted to share that with you all this morning. And thanks again for having me here.
Thank you so much, Sheila. Wow, such amazing and loving tidbits and phrases that I took down. I love how you said heal within a pace that is steady for you, and that regression is part of your healing. I could so relate to that, and I needed to hear that. So thank you so much. I want to open it up to anyone that has any comments for Sheila or any questions. Could people relate to what she was saying? You have really some great comments there, Sheila, in the chat as well. People seem to love your phrase, they are not your people, which is so true. Catherine?
I was just going to say, Sheila, thank you for your vulnerability and sharing that story. And, it's hard for me to not really relate to your story but the parental roles were reversed in that my father was, extremely exacting in his standards. And I have come to believe as an adult that because I would say I grew up in a loving home, but there was always room for improvement and in terms of everything that I did. And so I couch it now in more of a statement that my father grew up with a critical mother, and he didn't know any other way to be but to be critical in the way he looked at the world. And I also couch it in that he wanted me to be the best version of myself. And so as I forgive and move on and also recognize in the mirror the things that I have repeated with my sons without consciousness, and now am healing as they are adults in a way that is so rich and so full for me. I really agree with you that, accepting the past couldn't be any different. And also I always say bless and release those things. And I feel that your sharing was just really touched my heart because of it. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
That was beautiful, Catherine. Bless and release. I love that. Any other comments for Sheila?
I'd love to add that.
Yes, Jenny.
Thank you, Sheila. I love the stories when we save ourselves. And in accepting yourself, you are freeing yourself to no more be waiting for permission. And we can never do that only for us. In accepting yourself and freeing yourself, you're freeing everyone around you, teaching them that they are to give themselves permission. So thank you so much for sharing your journey.
Wow, everyone on this call is just so awesome. I mean, I can't keep up with all these notes. Thank you. Thank you, Jenny. That's in accepting yourself, you're freeing yourself and others. So true. Thank you, Sheila. That was a powerful start to the 25th rally. I want to continue on and introduce the next speaker. We have Ingor. Ingor, I had the pleasure of speaking with for the first time yesterday, and some of these speakers, I haven't even had a chance to do my one-on-ones or even connect with them, but Ingor, I was able to connect with yesterday, and she is known as the networking ninja. Now, I don't want to intimidate you because she is a lovely person. She is just amazing. After I finished speaking with her, I just felt such a sense of peace and comfort. And I just love her whole philosophy. It's about Ubuntu. I am because we are, and I know she will share more. But she does so much to help others, including facing her own fears and challenging herself multiple times so she can make sure and share her voice out there to others. Her journey has been amazing. She has these shows to inspire others. And I am so, so pleased and happy and honored to have you here, Ingor. I can't wait to hear your story.
Thank you for the honor of inviting me to be here. It's a privilege to be here, and hello to everyone that is here. Thank you. This is Kismet. It's providential. We were meant to be here, and I'm happy that I could listen to Sheila, and I look forward to the rest of the speakers as well. I'm just learning from all of you and hearing your stories. I've always known that I wanted to positively impact the lives of others, but I never knew how. I attended university straight out of high school, and I studied towards a degree in information technology and industrial sociology. However, my career as an executive assistant found me, and I worked in the corporate world for almost 20 years until I lost my job in 2018. Prior to that, I had felt a calling to entrepreneurship for the longest time, but I resisted because I was afraid to fail. I'm sure many of you have felt that. And many people actually resist entrepreneurship because of that very reason. And for me, it was because I had no idea where to begin. There was no one in my circle who was a successful entrepreneur, and success didn't look like that to me. Furthermore, my self-esteem is something that I've always struggled with. It has inhibited me no matter the challenge that I faced. We don't realize the massive effects of low self-esteem, but there are so many. Anxiety, stress, loneliness, augmented probability of depression, complications with friendships and romantic relationships, extremely diminished academic and professional performance, increased susceptibility to substance abuse, and so much more. I was born with a condition called congenital hip dysplasia. And because of that, I limped when I walked. It is well known that kids can be mean, especially when there is no adult supervision. I was bullied and teased because of it, always feeling less than others. This impacted my self-worth, regardless of how my parents and teachers endeavored to build me up. I do thank God, though, that I chose to treat my tormentors with kindness, regardless of their treatment of me. This wasn't easy, but I tried to make sure that I didn't judge them for their behavior, but showed them grace. My reason? One never knows what others are struggling with in their own lives or the demons that they face. I can now look back and know that I am enough. Here are the lessons that I took from my experiences. Number one, no one is perfect. Number two, comparing yourself to others is fruitless. Number three, hurt people hurt people. Number four, someone else's actions should not determine yours. 5, your experience can either make you better or better, and the choice is yours. 6, we can all make an impact, but it's up to us whether it's positive or negative. And the last one is, in this world where we can be anything, it is always best to choose to be kind. So, hello to everyone. As Andrea mentioned, my name is Ingor, and I am recognized as a networking ninja. I'm hired by entrepreneurs to help them develop a LinkedIn strategy to stand out and connect with their ideal community. As I mentioned earlier, it's always been my passion to help others. And that's why it's important for me to share my story and be here today. Prior to my calling for entrepreneurship, I worked and I went home, and then I got up the next day and I did it all over again for almost 20 years, because that was my comfort zone. Then fast forward to June of 2020. I had a pivotal moment when a friend reached out and asked me what I was doing. I told her that I was betwixt and between starting my own business and staying in the corporate world. And she said something that was really impactful to me, and it created this pivotal moment, because what she said was, well, if you fail, you can always go back to the corporate world. And like I said, success didn't look like that to me. You know, success didn't look like entrepreneurship. And because of that, I was really afraid to fail. Well, she helped me. She introduced me to someone who walked me through the process. And in 2020, I established my business. For those of you who have forgotten 2020, this was smack bang in the middle of the pandemic. So the study of social networking is truly more than what we think. There is actually a science to it. Many of us have heard that we are the sum of the 5 people around us. And I just explained to you how one person made an impact and helped me move into entrepreneurship. I take it one step further than saying that I'm the sum of the 5 people around us, because I believe that I am the product of all the people I've encountered in my life, as well as the experiences through which I've lived. Growing up in South Africa, the concept of Ubuntu is something that I saw all around me. And it is one of the pillars of my life, because I truly believe that I need to live every single day. It's an ancient African word. And as Andrea told you, it means I am because we are. Someone who said it really beautifully was our former president, Nelson Mandela. And I want to read you his quote. It says, "In Africa, there is a concept known as Ubuntu, the profound sense that we are human only through the humanity of others. That if we are to accomplish anything in this world, it will in equal measure be due to the work and achievement of others." But whatever your interpretation is of this wonderful principle, fundamentally, it is the concept of community, meaning respect, dignity, value, acceptance, solidarity, morality, compassion, joy, love, fulfillment, and so much more. Over the past year, I really have felt more and more that I get to choose who is in my circle. The people that we all have in our lives definitely affect and influence who we ultimately become. If we aren't moving in the best circles, are we really living up to our truest potential? The principle of Ubuntu, which I choose to live my life on, means that no man is an island. Based on this principle and what I've learned over the past few months, I begrudgingly have to say that my mother was right when she said, "Show me your friends and I'll show you who you are." From my parents, I have learned to put God first in all that I do. And my friend Donna has reminded me of that. From my husband, Nathan, I have learned to sit in my feelings and communicate them diplomatically and with respect. From a friend of mine, Gail, I've learned to be curious, not judgmental. From my friend Usama, I've learned that I can be strong even in the most dire of circumstances. From Elizabeth, I've learned that it's important to be the kindness we seek, especially when we see that it's lacking. From John and Aya, I've learned that it's important to strive, towards positivity no matter what we face in our lives. From Emily, Russ, and Alden, I've learned that I can live the life that I choose. From Alex, Ilona, Chrislyn, Jonathan, Ligia, Nasreen, I've learned that it's important to persevere and build up my resilience, even if I feel I can't go on. From Scott and Sydney, I've learned that I must give thanks in all things. I can go on and on, but the point is that I love God and I am communicative, curious, strong, kind, positive, focused, resilient, grateful, and so much more because of the people in my circle. And I'm so blessed to have the friends that I do. If in the future you recall this day and what I've said, may you remember the principle of Ubuntu. Remember that no man is an island and that we are all part of the fabric of life. And next time you connect with someone, take the time to observe them. Then, if time allows you, really get to know who the core person is. I'm sure you can find something you admire and wish to emulate. Let's all strive to cultivate the circle we are in so that we can look up to those who surround us and also inspire others to look up to us. Thank you.
Wow, so eloquent, Ingor. Thank you so much. Beautiful, beautiful words. Does anyone have any questions for Ingor? Bill? Or was that like a hand clap?
Nope, that was the hand, but I actually would like to say something. Ingor, that was, you hit on a theme and I put it in the chat. Kindness is absolutely the starting point of any interaction. And I always say, no matter what's happening or what someone's doing to us, it's not my problem. They're going through something. So thank you and great talk.
Thank you.
Well said, Bill. And I love, Ingor, so many things. Hurt people, situations can make you either bitter or better. Man is not on an island. So many truths there. And I do want you to share something that you shared with me yesterday. Now, Ingor has been on video and does shows for a while now. I'm like, wow, you're a video superstar, but you have a story behind that, don't you?
Yes, the crux of it is I hate video. But I do it because I want to show up and inspire positivity, because there is no shortage of negativity in this world today. We, especially hopefully coming out of the pandemic, right? It's everywhere, and we need to inspire positive change. That's what we're here for.
Thank you, Ingor. And that is like the perfect example of a human that would do anything to fulfill her destiny and her journey to help others. Even though she may hate video, she overcomes that and focuses on why she's doing what she does. I love that. That was very inspiring for me.
Thank you.
Anything else for Ingor? And again, I invite you to read the comments, Ingor. Really, really great, beautiful words. I also invite everyone, even if you're speaking or not speaking today, to share who you are, how people can connect to you. And if you have resources either coming up or that already exist that can help others, please feel free and share them in the comments. Wonderful. So we are moving on, and we are moving on to Frank McKinley. So Frank, I've also known for a couple of years. It's the first time I actually see you on video and that we hear each other's voices. But we communicate on Facebook, and I know we're on some Twitter chats together on Twitter. Frank is, the first thing I've known about Frank is that he's a writer. He's a very prolific, amazing writer. He's a 4-time Amazon best-selling author. He has some great works on leadership and on just making you fulfill your dreams and building success. So I invite you to check out his work. And Frank, please put the links in the chat later on. But also, I know you're very passionate about helping people, especially if they have a story inside of them, whether it's entrepreneurs or business owners or just a regular person, to make sure that they do share their words, share their voice, and share their stories. And you're there to help them if they wish to do so by the written word. So Frank, I am very excited to have you here and can't wait to hear your story.
Thank you, Andrea. It's great to be here. And the reason I'm here today is just because of what kindness has done for me in my life. And I'll mainly want to focus on a story that takes me way back to when I was 11. And this is a time, you know, we talk about courage sometimes, and this is a time when I was not courageous at all. I was starting at a new school, and it was the first day of school. Somehow I made it to third period, and it was the Bible class. This is a Christian school. Now, this is not to say that I have anything against Christian schools. This was just one of those days. I was in Bible class, and my teacher was this guy. He's pretty conservative looking. You know, he had that white short sleeve shirt. It looked like it had been soaked in starch. You know, you could probably throw something, I guess, and it would bounce off. He had a conservative, maybe red tie, you know, kind of color of dark fire. And so the first thing he says that I remember was, turn in your Bibles to First Chronicles. Well, my parents sent a Gideon Bible with me to school. So I dig in my wrinkled up jeans pocket and pull it out. And I thought to myself, let's see if this Bible has Chronicles in it. The next minute I hear, you be quiet. Well, I obeyed. I froze. I didn't know what to do with that as an 11-year-old. I hadn't experienced anything really like that before. So I just started to protect myself. And just that went on for years, even into college. So it was just that traumatic for me. And because nobody had ever, that I could recall, had ever done that before. But I think maybe in the moment, what was worse was when the class was over, not one person came and said, hey, how are you doing? Are you okay? You know, he's just like that. You know, it'll be all right. Don't worry about it. You know, nobody did any of that. So I just thought, okay, well, you know, if that's the way people are, you know, here or wherever, then I'm just not going to let him in. I'm not going to let him, you know, have a chance to attack me and hurt me and make me feel like, you know, hey, you know, you don't really belong here. You go to the corner, to the margins, you know, just stay out of don't intrude, stay out of the way. So that feeling followed me for a long time. Now, fortunately, there was a teacher that I remember. He was my PE teacher, you know, and I don't have depth perception. So when it was time to play ball in PE, I was just awkward, you know, because that just comes with the territory. And he noticed. So he took me aside and he would spend time with me and just, you know, teach me how to catch a ball and throw a ball. And, you know, that to me was just so different than everything I had experienced up to that point. But, you know, and I enjoyed it, but I still really wasn't ready to do a whole lot with it. So over time, during high school, I would befriend the people who I guess were kind of like me, or off in the margins, and, you know, the people that others ignored, you know, because maybe it was fairly easy for me to approach someone who was in the same position I was. And, you know, in a way I felt maybe, I don't know, I had nothing to lose by doing this. If I didn't have a friend afterwards, then that's, you know, that's the way it goes, because I didn't have one before. But I would go ahead and I would pay attention to these people, because I remembered maybe somewhere in me that being kind to someone, you know, that can touch them in a way that, you know, maybe no one else is doing for them. And I just thought, you know, if I can do that, and I wasn't that strategic as a teenager, you know, I was just kind of like, yeah, I just noticed you were by yourself. And, you know, I just want to say hi. How are you? You know, what do you like? What do you not like? You know, what's frustrating? And you could just feel free to be yourself with other people like that, because, you know, that was just something they welcomed. That was my experience. I thought, man, this is great. But, you know, that was as far as courage took me to be kind in high school. You know, I would take my chances when, you know, I had, you know, a moment with someone where I could just be me and them and no one interfering. When I was in college, I had to take a class about how to get ready for a job. And I was conscientious, so I thought, okay, I'll read this assignment. And the assignment was the self-image segment of See You at the Top, a book by Zig Ziglar. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a great book. I'd highly recommend it. But at the time, I didn't know who Zig Ziglar was. And I thought, okay, well, you know, if I don't read this, I could I could fail this class. So I read it. And I was sitting in my room. I was by myself reading this book. And I heard things that I'd never heard before, like, you know, you're valuable, and, you know, what you have to offer the world, you know, is your unique gift. Not in those words, but that was the impression that I got, you know, and you have a right to offer what you have just as much as anybody else. And to me, that was just sort of like, you know, scales falling off my eyes, and the whole world just opened up. So the next day, couldn't wait to get to school and try this out. So the guy who had come into the class before and never say anything and just sort of blend in, I decided, okay, I'm going to be different. I'm going to see if this stuff really works. So I started saying hello to not just the people I like, but to everybody. If I knew your name, I said hello. How are you? And I got a lot of these, man, what's going on with that guy? Yeah, who is that? Yeah, he wasn't here yesterday. And it felt great, you know, and that's, I think at that time I really found more courage. And as Ingor spoke earlier about expanding your comfort zone, that really expanded mine. And I find that if you want to be kind, you know, to expand your comfort zone, talk to somebody you don't know. Talk to somebody who's looks like they've been ignored, or somebody that people aren't talking to, because, you know, you could have a chance to not only brighten that person's day, you might change their life. And I recall somebody I was talking to, I think we were at a class reunion just years ago, and she'd gone through a lot of horrible things, like a divorce or several divorces, and where I had to work 2 or 3 jobs just to make the bills every month. And so I just thought, you know what, you know, you have things to offer the world. You know, things are going to get better. This is just a period in your life where it's tough, and, you know, I can appreciate that, but things can get better. And I heard from her later that yes, she got married, things were better in every conceivable way. And I thought, man, you know, I don't know if I had, you know, maybe just I only about had a small part to do with that, but, you know, who knows what would have happened if I hadn't decided to be kind that day. Now, it's have to say that every day I'm kind to everyone I meet. Well, no, it's not true. However, I am a lot more intentional about doing it than I was before. And I think that's really the most any of us can expect from ourselves. It's just to be more intentional. And it's in the intentionality, I believe, that more things happen. And I think kindness spreads through interactions like that, when one person is kind to another person, and then that person takes that kindness and shares it with another person and another person. And that's how things spread in the world. And I think what we're doing today is a great seed for kindness to spread through all our networks. And I'm so happy that I can be a small part of this.
Bravo, Frank. Bravo. Great words. I could relate to so much that you were saying, because I was too that kid that would befriend quote unquote marginalized people, that people that had no friends. It just also just felt safe because I could relate to them. And it's you see yourselves in them and you don't want them to suffer the way you did. So I appreciate you being that person as well. Such many great things I love about being intentional in your kindness, because we're all human, we have our days, but as long as you're intentional, that's what counts. Any words for Frank? Could you relate to what he was saying? Anything that popped up that you really liked what he said? Anything for Frank? Bill?
Talk to me.
Yes, Bill,
Oh,
sorry.
thank you.
My
Sorry.
voice.
Frank, awesome. And the theme today that I'm absolutely so thrilled and excited that I'm here is kindness. Okay. I mean, okay. But and you're about being intentional, and what one of the favorite social media follows I have is Bruce Kazanoff, and he always says, start each day and every interaction that you have with someone, and no one's perfect, but think, help this person. You know, go into the coffee shop and, hey, that barista, that's your customer. You know, this isn't all about me. And if we just change the lens that we're thinking through, the opportunities just, we stumble into them. And it's not, you know, I always tell my family and coworkers, it's not all altruistic. I'm the biggest winner of all because it feels so good. Okay. So I'm cheering over here for all the speakers hitting this theme today.
Thank you, Bill. It does feel really good, doesn't it? So many great comments in the chat. You need to read all of these, Frank, lots of things. Paying kindness forward, really needed in life today. Being more intentional is so very important. Frank liked the message and your realness. Kindness is key. So many great things. Thank you so much, Frank. Any other parting words, Frank?
I would just, just hammer it again, just to be intentional and no. And if you're kind, don't think about yourself, because I know that was my original position when I was being kind was, I don't know, just think about what you have to offer that person, how you can brighten their day, and don't worry about how you look or how you sound. Just give yourself wholly to it. And I think everything will take care of itself the way it should be.
Thank you, Frank. Well said. Melody, you have a question?
Actually, I wanted to comment on something.
Sure.
Part of your story where you said depth perception, it was like a big light came on in my head. No wonder I was horrible at baseball in school, because I have a problem with one eye. And I was terrible at most sports, but when it came to volleyball, I was pretty good at it. And they started noticing that. They were like, wow, she ate her Wheaties today. So eventually they made me one of the team captains. And instead of picking the teams the way it normally went, I would pick one of the ones that would be the leftovers first, and then somebody would skill, and another one that was a leftover, because I was always one of the last ones that the team got stuck with. So when I had a chance to be team captain, it was like, not this time, people. And it didn't matter to me whether my team won. I wanted the people on my team to felt like they mattered. So when the leftover kids are getting picked before the very skilled kids, it made them feel better. But going back to what he said about depth perception, and that if school coaches, the PE teachers, would notice that and try to teach more about having that opportunity for the kids, instead of going straight to only team captains are the ones that are really good at that sport, give the others an opportunity to see where they go with it. And nobody would have thought that the reason I couldn't hit a ball and always struck out was because of my eyes. And I didn't even realize that was the problem. So thank you very much, Frank, because you just turned that light on. And I think that if we do focus on being kind to others, it doesn't matter whether we win or lose. It's all about making somebody else feel good that day and feel mattered that day. So thank you so much for all the inspiration here. It's wonderful.
Wow, Melody. Wow, wow, wow. Wow. That was amazing. So true. Gosh, I wish I would have gone to school with all of you. It would have been just beautiful. I would have been picked first on a team. Man, that was beautiful. Anything else for Frank? Wonderful. So this is you all bring smiles to my face. Thank you so much. I have the pleasure of welcoming Renuka Mohan. So if her backdrop looks familiar, it's because Renuka was actually someone that was introduced to me and to many of us here by our friend Peter Clark, who does these amazing shows. And I know Renuka, you're as well. Where's Renuka? Oh, there you are. That Renuka also is a big part of those. And he always mentions his lovely wife, and we have the pleasure of meeting his lovely wife today. And I'm so excited. So many great things about you, Renuka. And Renuka is this person that really truly cares about human potential development. She's full of empathy. She's so heart-centered. And to sum it up, I want you to read, I'm going to read something that she put out there on LinkedIn that truly just touched my heart. She says, in this partnership of living called humanity, we want to feel like we matter. We want to know others see us and care. Listening and holding space is vital to human connection, especially when a friend or colleague is in mental distress, is down, depressed, or experiencing anxiety. What is holding space? A simple explanation is being okay with the silence in the space. Silence can feel awkward, but if you consider this space as sacred, as an act of respect and love, as a way of honoring the person's truth, of listening without any intention to fix, this silent space becomes transformational and creates a human bond of connection at a heart and soul level. That just really, really connected with me. And that's just a little glimpse of what Renuka is about. I cannot wait to hear your story, Renuka.
Oh my goodness. Andrea, thank you so much for having me here. Thanks to all of the speakers, Sheila, Ingor, Frank, and for everyone for showing up here today and holding space for everyone in this journey called life. Andrea, I rarely post on LinkedIn, and you picked one of the ones that I put out probably over a month ago. So you know, you're gonna find that I'm working on using my voice a little bit more every time. So I started off this year just wanting to say yes to everything that came up. All the stories that were shared here today, there's a little touch of everything that I share so much with. And you, Andrea, I just want to say that I've been similarly feeling the way you felt as well in the past month. It's been a year like that for me, and I'm happy to say that with a lot of work, I'm starting to see that light at the end of the tunnel and that sun shining through. So yeah. Thank you again for this opportunity. This is the first time I'm sharing anything like this with people who are not in my close family or relatives and friends. And the story I want to share is not really so much of a story, but it's this thing. I'm sure that it's come up for so many of us, called forgiveness. And I might get emotional, so I'm apologizing up front. Forgiveness has played a really big role. And Sheila, how I relate to your story is that when I was 12, something happened to me, and I'm going to come back to that. But that's kind of where this all started for me. But 30 years after that event, when I was 12, my husband and I visited Rwanda as part of a volunteer mission with World Vision at the time. And we got sponsors for 26 kids, and we took gifts for them. And we went there to have a look at the project, the program development, things like that. And as many of you may have heard in the past, in 1994, for 100 days, Rwanda experienced genocide between two tribes, and over 800,000 people. After that 100 days, they were no.
Renuka, you are on mute.
Yes, you're muted, Renuka.
So go back just a little bit so we can catch everything, please.
How's that?
Yes.
Thank
Is that
you.
better? Oh, I don't even know how that happened. I thought I unmuted. Where was I unmuted, or did you hear anything at all?
You were talking about the children in Rwanda.
Okay. So we visited the kids, taking gifts to them, and in the villages there, you'd see all the kids run up to the truck. There's so much joy. There's so much enthusiasm for life. And I kept noticing this. Every child we visited, every family we visited, every village we went to, every project, that there was this immense joy. And I really tried to understand. So through our interpreters, I asked, I'm like, why does there just seem to be so much joy? Where does it come from, knowing how painful the history had been? And one of the stories that was shared was very simply that, we had to come together. We had to come together to forgive each other, and so that we can move forward and forge community and build Rwanda back from where it had faltered, and all the pain and violence, and putting that in the past, and move forward in unity. And I couldn't believe it that it boiled down to something so simple, even though it's so hard when we're in those moments of pain and struggle and wanting to forgive, but that feeling still holds on so much inside of us. And the people there, just the joy that they had for moving forward, for reconciling, and just building their community, really left a mark on me. And I'm going to take you back to, well, when I was 12, and I've not shared this ever before publicly like this, but when I was 12, it was a Sunday morning, and I grew up in a country called Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean. And at the age of 12, we had relatives living, a few doors away from us, down the road. And on a Sunday morning, early one Sunday morning, my mom ran out of something that she needed for to cook that Sunday's dinner and lunch. And so she sent me to pick up a spice or something like that. I really don't remember what it was now. So I went, collected it, and the rain started to fall. So I decided to wait in my relative's home. And, this person was a trusted in-law uncle, a great uncle. And he, in that moment of time, he decided to touch me inappropriately and say some very lewd things to me. And in my 12-year-old self, I thought I was in shock. And I turned and looked at him as he continued to say what he did, and got up, walked back to my home in the rain. And that story has shaped so much of my early life. Sheila, this is where I relate to you about painful things that happen when we're kids, and the power of forgiveness. I didn't know what that was. I was angry. I couldn't share with my family. I just knew instinctively I couldn't share, couldn't tell my dad. I didn't tell my mom right away until later that day what had happened. And typically, as what would happen, even today, sometimes women experience this. What did you do to make that happen? Was the response. And, my anger and powerlessness just seemed to magnify more and more and more. I turned into somewhat of a rebellious kid, but still within the constraints of growing up in an Indian home. You don't get too rebellious. You just mouth off a little bit. You're just a little bit more, you just have a little bit more attitude, as a way of standing up for yourself. When I moved to Canada, I learned to let all that stuff go. But that relative, I never spoke to them. My anger showed up in just ignoring them at family events, never having any interaction at all. And it really formed so much of, I guess, who I was and was to become, because it was part of me. And I've been so involved in wanting healing for others, for myself. And every time I would try to heal through different modalities, through energy healing, things like that, what would come up was this idea of forgiveness, forgiveness, forgiveness. And it would always go back to that moment. And my emotions around being able to forgive that person, I was never able to really conquer it until the moment when we had this experience in Rwanda, and understanding the violence and the things that happened to the people there. I recognized that I could start being willing to forgive this person who was no longer alive in 2009. I felt that through that experience and through living that, I could start feeling that it was okay to do that. And through multiple different kinds of modalities, through many years of going through different types of healing with different types of healers, doing a lot of self-talk, a lot of self-reflection, I was able to let that go, to the point that even though it's still emotional, that particular point in time, that person's family, and that experience now has really helped to make me, and in a certain way, make me who I am, because I can empathize so much with people that have had pain, that have had some kinds of suffering, and the journey to get back to joy, really, and how important it is to recognize trauma, whatever it may be to us all. Forgiveness has played a role in the past couple of years with the pandemic. We've all gone through so much with it. And some family members might not necessarily have been. I'm a person who wants to connect. I want to talk about it, how you're feeling. I want to talk about feelings all the time. And so I've had to step back, because I've noticed that sometimes people aren't ready to talk. And I view that sometimes as alienating during the pandemic. So I've had to exercise so much forgiveness towards others, but also for myself, for feeling the way, sometimes having resentment, sometimes feeling not appreciated, sometimes feeling oh, you don't want to connect, you don't care about me anymore. Things like that have popped up so much in during the pandemic that I keep coming back to this idea of forgiveness. So, Andrea, when you asked for me to, I thought at first, no, there's no way, I have nothing to share. And then because I started this year feeling like I want to say yes to the things that come up more, I decided to say yes. And I was really having a tough time figuring out what it was that I wanted to really share. And forgiveness has really been the thing for me. Throughout my life, it's woven throughout different parts of my life, throughout these two situations I've shared. And I still find to this day it's my go-to when I have a tough time understanding circumstances, understanding people, understanding myself, to the point now that I just say I forgive myself for whatever I'm feeling, whatever that may be, because it is such a release, and then it helps me to reclaim where I want to be, which is in peace and joy. And that's really, what I think we all want to experience with this human life. And it's been quite the journey, and I know it's going to continue to be quite the journey. And it's what helps me feel that sense of connection and holding space for others while they're having a tough time too. Yeah. Thank you for allowing me to share.
That was so beautiful, heartfelt, genuine. Renuka, you're amazing. And I feel so honored that you said yes to this opportunity. At the beginning, backstage, I tell speakers that our goal is to inspire and empower at least one person today. Well, Renuka, that is me. And maybe it's more than just me in this room, but you definitely have done that with me right now. I actually have a tough time with the topic of forgiveness, and I'm all for it. But I too have had some emotional trauma growing up. And I wanted to ask you, and then I wanted to open up the floor to everyone else. I wanted to ask you, how do you go about knowing that I truly want to forgive, but it's so ingrained and traumatized you in your life of something that someone did that you just cannot let go of the hurt? How do you get beyond that?
For me, this was over decades of work. I think sometimes when we're hurt like that, when we're younger, it sticks in our body. It stays in some places in our body. So how that manifested for me in my body was just a lot of pain, that I would go to energy healers, I'd go to massage therapy, and this theme kept coming up. And I reflect a lot on the things that happened in my life to try to draw the lessons from it. I've been doing that for a really long time. And this thing kept coming up about just feeling the stuckness, the pain wouldn't move. I wouldn't really be able to, after the initial massage therapy session, physiotherapy, I would end up being re-injured or re-hurt. And I started noticing energy and talk therapy, different kinds of energy modalities, and being reflective. I knew instinctively, like, this is how our intuition, I believe, helps us. The intuition was that moment in time that shaped so much of my childhood. So I think how it can help a person really is understanding that it is a process, and we have to be willing to step into what we want our futures to be, which is I wanted to be defined by joy and the great things that I've experienced in life beyond that one moment, and how much I've grown, and the willingness to let go of the hurt, and then the forgiveness. That the hurt was one thing that I was able to let go of really at a younger time frame, but the forgiveness, the real idea of letting go and allowing what was to be in the past, knowing that this person's no longer there. That forgiveness took a lot longer. That feeling of the holding on, and it's just like strings holding your heart, that you just can't feel that freedom to fly. So once I recognized that I was still holding on to this idea, this mental image of this person, and not being able to forgive, I started working on that again. Just, okay, I have to let it go. Do I let it go? And I talked to myself a lot. Did I let it go? I didn't. Every time I it came up, I'm like, okay, am I willing to let it go? Am I? And then one day it just really transformed, where I felt those strings around my heart just lift and let go. And it was no longer a tug. And it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time. It's not, I think we throw about the idea in so much social media, things like that, of forgive and it's freeing to you and stuff like that. But there's real emotional work that goes into forgiveness. There's a real lot of work that goes into it. And it's not something that comes lightly, but I think recognizing that we're here, we're alive, we're breathing, we have this connection to joy. This is why, when I thought about what I was going to share today, joy is so important to living life. And joy could be peace. It could be having a great cup of coffee with your family. It could be sharing moments with friends. Like, joy is always there for us if we're willing to believe in it enough and be willing to step into this idea that we don't have to be defined by trauma. We don't have to be defined by the things in our past. We can choose to live joyfully today and remind ourselves that we have promising futures ahead of us. And with that idea of letting go and forgiving might be a little bit easier. Yeah, I think. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Renuka. I could listen to you all day. You're not only so comforting, but what you say is so spot on. I mean, ultimately, we have the power. We have to give ourselves permission to let go of that string, right? And I love your persistent of self-talk. I agree. That works wonders. Thank you so much. That really, really resonated with me. I want to open it up to anyone else that would like to say something to Renuka. Sejal?
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Renuka, for sharing, and it's so nice to see you here. Your story resonates with me a lot because I am also Indian and I've gone through this. I just want to just pick up on a couple of things you said that really resonate with me. It's really hard growing up in a culture where you're not allowed to talk about certain things, and it really, children are just left helpless because they don't have the support. And same thing, Renuka, I went through, where when you do try to talk to your parents, it's the first thing is, you must have done something to bring this on, or something's wrong with you, or you're disappointing them and you're not meeting their expectations, or you need to do something differently. And after a while, you just stop going to them because you're not getting support from them. And so then you act out and you do all these other things. And I think that it's what's helped me, and I'm still doing the work, just like everybody I'm sure here is as well, is I just do whatever I can today to protect my child so that he doesn't have to ever feel that way. And doing that has helped me let go and forgive. And I'm still working on forgiveness, to this point of just when I talk to my mother right now, because I have different opinions about how they should have raised me or how they could have been there for me. And I'm still working through that it's, you get this like it kind of gets underneath your skin every time you talk to that person, and you're like, it's in the past, it's in the past, just let it go. But it's hard to let it go. And I just want to tell everybody, it doesn't happen overnight. You can forgive somebody and say, okay, they did the best that they could, right, in their situation. And in my situation, I do feel like my parents did the best that they could, but it still haunts you, right, to this point. And when it starts to haunt me is when I turn around and start doing good for other people. and start saying, I'm not going to do this to my child. I'm not going to let other people do, I'm going to try to do what I can so that other people are supported or children are supported. And that's really helped me in my journey. And the other thing you said that really just kind of, touched my heart. And again, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing these details, is we really have to do more as a culture, as a society, to do for our children. Protect the children, because we suffer for years. I mean, it literally took me 40 years to get to the point where I was like, I can finally realize, because when you're going through it, what you do is I'm the expert compartmentalizer. I can compartmentalize everything in my brain, and it feels like I'm not dealing with it anymore. Oh, I'm not dealing with that pain anymore. No, it's not that I'm not dealing with it. It's still there, and it's haunting me in other ways until you actually deal with it. And then you realize, I've said this so many times in my life where I'm like, it's the past. Just don't worry about it. Just move on. But you can't move on till you deal with these issues that have traumatized you. Right. And so when I hear your story, I just want to say you're very courageous, and you are an inspiration to all of us. And for everybody here that's on their own journey, compartmentalization doesn't work. I mean, you can do that up to a certain point, but if you truly want to move on, you have to face it, and you have to figure out and forgive yourself, because you're not to blame for what happened, right? For a long time, I blamed myself of, this is happening to me because I did something wrong, because that's what I was told. But it's not. I think you start with forgiving yourself, and then you can work on forgiving other people. So thank you for sharing. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
It's beautiful, Sejal. Wow. I could relate to what you're saying as well. Anyone, this is such a powerful topic. Anyone else can relate or have something that they would like to add to the topic? Chip?
For my first time here, thanks for having me. So about 10 years ago, I was in the United States Army as an officer, and they were commencing a new protocol called SHARP, which for anybody who knows the Army or military, they like their acronyms. It stands for Sexual Harassment and Assault Response Prevention. I had to go through a morality background check because I didn't have any arrests or anything like that. My job was to teach and train all of my soldiers and above, and be what's called a victim advocate for those who have gone through sexual assault or harassment. I look at it, and we basically had that uphill battle. Exactly what you're saying is like, oh, we had the example of some girl went to a Walmart store at 3 a.m. She's going to go in her pajamas, which is probably going to be a lot of loose clothing. Some guy's just there and decides to take advantage of her and to do things inappropriately. Exactly that. The first thought is, well, she probably was asking for it. She deserved it. I counteract to that. Unless she's wearing a shirt that says, please rape me, I highly doubt it. I had to deal with, if you look at even historical culture, it's still prominent in our society, even in the movies based on his story. For those who have not seen the movie The Last Duel with Matt Damon in that, it's about Matt Damon's wife who was raped by his so-called friend. And the first thing they do is interrogate the woman. What did you do to have him rape you? It's always put on the woman, not the man. I am not a fan of that. I hate it, because what woman does ask for that? It's a culture where everything is the woman's fault, not the man's. I'm not trying to portray white privilege or anything like that, but it's like, that is, for me, that's a pandemic in every culture. The woman's to blame for the man's choice, which is garbage. As a victim advocate, I had to produce a lot of training and resources for the victim. And forgiveness, even now, is a hard thing. A little side note, my own son, I'm currently going through a divorce. My wife and my children are staying coincidentally with my mother. My mother is guilty of that upbringing of respect, not talk about those feelings. One of my sons was told to do something. He said no and walked away. My mother is of the generation where you just do what you're told, no talk back. So she was more worried about why how dare he say no, instead of asking why he was feeling that. Why are we in a society where we can't even talk about our feelings? We're more worried about being disrespected when we're not even giving it. We just demand it. I encourage my sons and all of my kids, especially my sons right now, to talk about those feelings. I can't compartmentalize. I've never been that way. It's suppression. So I can't suppress feelings. It's like, I need those boys I need all of our kids in our society to just talk about that. So Renuka, thank you so much for just getting this topic out. It's one that's really near and dear to my heart. I hate that we have to deal with it in society, but I appreciate you just bringing up the forgiveness and how to work through it, because no, it's not something easily done.
That was an amazing share. Thank you so much, and welcome to this community. This is your first time. Love that you're here. Anything else for Renuka? Please feel free and go back to the comments, Renuka. You've blown us away. Thank you so much. And the fact that I mean, I had no idea you didn't write a lot on LinkedIn, and the fact that really resonated to me, and I wrote it. And I mean, everything's meant to be. There's a perfect plan, right? You need to trust the journey, and obviously you are meant to use your voice more, because you've touched so many people today, and your courage to tell your story is really admirable. And thank you so much.
Thanks, Andrea.
I want to also, just because I love these so much, is Renuka does these amazing things, but she also has these cards called Remind. And, you know, you get one of these cards and it's like a daily well-being quote, inspiration. And, you know, it really helps put me in perspective every day. If Renuka put the link on there, if people are interested, but I picked one today, and it says, I am resilient and flow easily and gracefully with the ups and downs of life. Challenges help me grow and get better. So it's, you know, it puts your mind into perspective. So it's not an advertisement. She didn't ask me to do that. They have really helped me. So I encourage you to check those out, and everything that everyone else here does. Everyone just has amazing communities, a lot of people here, and books, and it's just amazing how much we can do together. Last but not least, we have one more speaker. Can you believe it? I mean, we've had such amazing stories so far. We have Ligia. Did I pronounce your name right? Sorry, you're on mute. Oh, let me see. There we go.
Okay. Yes, Ligia.
Ligia.
Like the G sound, it sounds like ha sound.
Yes, Ligia.
Ligia, yes.
Beautiful. So Ligia, I recently met through a couple of joint programs and shows that we've been commenting on. We have some mutual friends, and based on her comments, I knew that she's extremely heart-centered, and I really wanted to connect with her. After finding out more about your work and how you love people and you make an impact on people, specifically students and children, what is there not to love about what the work you do? I really love how what in your efforts, you make sure people have their power to speak up and make sure that their voices are heard, and you're a big advocate for children. So I can't wait to hear your story.
Thank you so much, Andrea. I'm really grateful with you for having me here and letting me share my story, which is always very significant, not only for me, but I hope that it can help someone else. So can I share the story right now? Yes? Okay, my story is a little bit different, but it is related to eating disorders. I started suffering from eating disorders since I was 19 years old. And everything started, as always, little by little, I start losing weight like 5 and then 10 kilograms, and everyone was applauding my achievement, and they were saying, "Oh wow, you're getting thinner." Unfortunately, now we know more about this disease, and I saw that even when I was losing weight, it was hard to understand because I saw myself in the mirror and I saw a fat girl. So it was really strange for me. I didn't understand what was happening, but that time, I think we didn't have a lot of information about these diseases. Um, so I just remember that I started like a kind of self-starvation habit. So I start eating less and less and less and doing like 2 hours and a half of exercise every day. And then I remember at the end of the year, I was a little bit sick, and then it was something, a coincidence, and I watched a movie, the Carl Camperton's movie, The Story. I don't know if you have watched it, but then I realized because I saw some of the symptoms in myself. So then I said to myself, maybe that is happening to me. So I comment this in my family, but everyone was saying, no, what is happening to you? You are not having anorexia nervosa. What you are having is just vanity. And I understood because it was really harmful for me, and it was really painful because anyone was not paying attention to me, and I was getting very weak. I was losing hair. I lost my period for 4 years, and my skin was dry. I had periods of arrhythmia, and my blood pressure was really, really low. So then maybe I was very, very, very thin at the age of 20 years old. I remember my weight was like 30 kilograms, and I never got any treatment. Like about 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I started getting treatment, and I was studying in the university. I remember just my mom said something is strange is happening to you, but then the other people say, my family, no, no, it's just vanity. You don't have to worry about that. So I just kept all those feelings inside, all those feelings of what is happening to me, but at the same time, I don't want to be fat. Everyone is saying that I look better. So what should I do? So then I remember that I was feeling depressed because by that time, depression was in my life. And it was really, really strong. So it was really hard for me to study um, because I took the English career and also the educational career. So it was the whole day in the university. And sometimes I remember I was in my exams, I lost my memory. I forgot everything. So I sit on my chair and I start thinking, what should I do? What should I do? Because I don't remember anything. So then thank God I start remembering, and because I needed to get like from 9 to 95 grade in my grades because I had a scholarship. So my university studies depended on that scholarship. Once I remember that the psychiatrist from the university, she said something is happening to you. I think you have this disease, but you are also getting too depressed. So I'm really worried about that. So she sent a letter to my mom, and the letter said that I should stay in the hospital for several weeks or maybe several months because it was the only way I could be getting all the nutrients that I needed. So when I I mean when I saw the reality, and then I said, no, I cannot stay so much time at the hospital because if I stay at the hospital, I will lose my scholarship, I will lose several periods from my university. So I was everything will be done, and I will not be able to study again. So then I say to my mom, no, mom, please don't do that. Give me a chance. I said to her, give me a chance because I need to study. I always think about my parents, even when they didn't understand that I was really suffering. Um, sorry. Even when I was really suffering, I tried um, I tried to understand that, but that time we didn't have a lot of information. I mean, they didn't have enough information to understand that I was killing myself by these hidden habits. So then she accepted, but the doctor said, it's your responsibility. If something happens to this girl, it's going to be your responsibility. So I didn't want my mother to suffer because I saw that she was suffering a lot because of me. So then I started eating a little bit more, and I was starting getting some treatment, maybe not the one that I needed, but I didn't have, the financial aid that I needed to get all the therapies that I really needed. So, but this time, I that problem of eating disorders is always haunting me, and maybe it is because I didn't get help at the right time. But talking about forgiveness, fortunately, I think that for me, forgive is really easy. I don't know why, but for me, it's really easy. I didn't blame my parents because they didn't understand. I didn't blame anyone around me because I lost my friends because when they saw that I was sick, I don't know why, but I was rejected by them, and I was really alone. But I didn't blame anyone because it was my responsibility. I was the only one who could finish those habits. I was the only one who can lift me up. And I remember that I learned a lot about discipline especially from my father. And I said, I am the only one who can be resilient. I am the only one who can change the events in life. I am the only one who can do something to continue study and to finish my career. And then I didn't ask to myself, what is this happening to me? What I thought is that maybe this experience that I have can encourage others to be resilient. This story that is happening to me can empower others and can inspire others to be better or to help others. But mainly my inspiration is mainly for children and adolescents. And I think that, and that's why, and I am a really advocate of mental health, because I think that we should be more concerned about children's and adolescents' mental health. This is something that it is always worrying me because I went through that when I was a child. I had different problems when I was an adolescent. Maybe the problems that I have during childhood were the result of my eating disorders. So that's what I think. If we raise children and adolescents with a very healthy mental health, they will be healthy adults, well-rounded adults. So even I think that even when it is a little bit uncomfortable to share these stories, and it is uncomfortable for some time, the long lasting or the impacting healing and liberating effect is really good. It's really good. It's not easy, but I think we should do it to help others. Even Andrea, for me being here, it caused a little bit anxiety in front of being in front of the camera. And if you notice, most of the people that I get involved with are people from another countries. Most of them are not from Latin America. So I should face this, because if I said to myself, if I want to help others, I had to surrender to those fears, not to start, to keep on feeling fear of doing something for others, but to struggle and be more, be stronger, be more resilient, and be more positive, that we can help, especially children. We are the ones who have the responsibility about the legacy that we are leaving for them. So, and if you notice now, the eating disorders is something that is happening more frequently. So this is a attention call for everyone, that we should be really very vigilant with children, because we never know what are they happening, or what is happening to them, if they are going through something that they cannot express. And that's what I am trying to express myself today, because while we express ourselves, when we are our true selves, we can help others, give hope and give joy. And I really thankful with you, Andrea, because this is a great opportunity to express awareness about this kind of trouble.
Ligia, you are an inspiration. You are so brave. I admire just everything about you. I had no idea that was the story. In fact, I never know what people are going to share. And the fact that you shared it, you found the courage to do so. And I know it has meant a lot to a lot of people in this room. It meant a lot to me. I shared in a similar struggle when I was in my 20s. And I can see exactly what you were going through. It's very hard, it's very difficult, and then you feel this shame and this guilt, and that you're going to be also judged, criticized, and maybe the criticism is what brought you to that point to begin with, but it's like there's no way out, you feel stuck. But it takes a lot of courage to speak up. And I know one person at a time, that's what it takes to make a difference. What caused, if I may ask one question, what makes you so connected to children in particular?
I think that everything happens for a reason. First of all, my parents, they love children. So I learned to love children since I was very young. But also, I have some other experiences when I was a child. Maybe sometime I can share, but the experience is also very hard for me to share. And I suffer a lot when I was a child, because even when I was a child, for example, I remember taking care of my parents as a child, and now I remember that, and I don't understand why did I do that. But I was always worried about what was happening to my mom, what was happening to my brother, my sister, my father. I was like the little mom of the house. So I suffer a lot because I was assuming like adults roles at home. And that's very hard for me. But at the same time, it helps me to connect with children, because I understand. I when I see a child, when I see a student, I ask him, "Are you feeling good today? Did you eat something? Or are you tired?" Or so I put myself in children's shoes, and I understand so well, because there are so many hard times during my childhood that for me is really easy to understanding. So it is like innate feeling that I have in my heart that I need to make people understand that we should protect them. We should protect them, and that's my main mission. Being in this platform is to spread awareness about what they really need. They really need our quality time. They need our love. They need our trust. They need to be safe and protected. All these things that I'm sharing with you right now, I didn't feel this when I was a child. I never feel protected. I never feel safe. I never feel I feel love. So for me, it's very easy to understand children, even when it is hard. And if you see, it also even affects me at this time of my life. But it makes me feel like I can understand children very well. So that's what I've loved them, and I can stand adults treating them back. I don't like others to treat children back, because I went through bullying, and a lot of things. Even as you said before, when I was very thin and I was very sick in university with this eating disorder, I remember everyone was judging me and saying, um, "Tell me something. Do you have cancer?" Everyone was saying that. They never asked me what is happening to you. So the rumors were that I got cancer, and that's what I was losing hair, and I was very thin. But no one asked me, "Do you need something? Do you need to talk? Do you want to tell me something? Do you need help with your homework?" I was helping others. It is something that it is in our heart to help others, and to make the difference in the world, and especially, as I said before, for children, because they are the new generations. So we need to do something. It is not I say to people, it is not that I don't care about mental health in adults. Of course, I care, but we should really concern more about what is happening to our kids. We really should care about that.
Well said, Ligia. It all starts with the children. And how many of us have hurt inner child within us, right? I think a lot of people can relate. So if we can do whatever we can to not let certain children suffer, or as many children as possible not suffer, we will do anything. I'd like to open it up. David.
Yeah, just such a powerful conversation we're having right now. A couple of themes really resonate for myself. Firstly, thank you for all the storytellers for sharing your story. What I was really hearing here was about resilience, and it's beautiful, such energy in that. I myself also believe around mental health advocacy. I really believe that we need to break this stigma, and we need to have that conversation, and we need to really be around that and say, like, yeah, how can I help you? Especially around our youth and our adolescents. They are our building blocks going forward, and we're being told to hide the emotions, don't cry, don't do this, don't do, what I like to call, and I'm hoping to write the article on, what I call the should police, and we need to teach people that it's okay to have that it's right to have that conversation, and we need to reach out to people and all as each other lift us up as humanity. And I really appreciate everybody coming here and giving power to this conversation today.
Thank you so much, David. It's a pleasure to see you here, as always. Anything else for Ligia? I saw a lot of hearts. I saw a lot of wonderful supportive comments. People could relate. You've really, really made a difference today, Ligia. And it all starts in the present moment. So keep doing what you're doing. It takes a lot of courage. I so admire you.
Thank you so much. I'm really grateful, really, for this opportunity to spread this message, which is the most important thing for me. And my motto is, everything is possible with a passionate heart and a willing mind. Everything. We should return to our hearts and remember that we should think about others. We should be close to others and help them and support them in an authentic way, because we should be as authentic as we can be. And I have learned this with children. We should be authentic, even when others criticize us and they say that we shouldn't be vulnerable, but I think we should be authentic.
All the time, completely. We are role models, even when we don't realize we're role models, right?
Of course. Mm-hmm.
Sheila, Ingor, Frank, Renuka, Ligia, it has been such a powerful 2 hours, just about. Amazing, grateful, humbled that you chose this platform and your time today to share your powerful stories. And I know you've touched many today. And I just say, please, 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 despite what life throws at you, keep going, keep shining your light, because you are making a difference. And those of you that were here today, I really appreciate you being here too. We all have choices on the weekend and where we can be. And you just showing your support, asking your questions, sharing your comments. It really not only inspires and gives more strength to the speakers, but also hopefully you got at least one additional piece of nugget that you can pay it forward to. And hopefully, if you haven't spoken here before and you feel comfortable, or when you do feel comfortable, I'd love for you to share your story here as well. In October 15th, we are having a physical, in-person worthy event in Houston, Texas. More details to come, but I just secured the venue this week, so I'm very excited. It'll be the first of its kind. Thank you, Ingor. It was very, very, very nerve-wracking, but thank you all for your support. So more details to come on that, but we will continue to have these rallies. I've learned so much over the past 2 years of doing them, and I'm so grateful for this community. Does anyone else have any parting words before we leave today? Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Renuka. David, I think that hand was from previously, correct? Probably. Ingor?
I put it in the chat, but I just wanted to say, beautiful themes around children, community, kindness, and forgiveness today. I think everybody touched on each one of those. So thank you, and Andrea, for putting everything together.
Thank you. Thank you for summing that up. That's beautiful. Well, thank you, everybody. I will see you next month, last Saturday of the month. If you have any friends or people that you feel has a story that they need to share or share their voice, please send them my way. Love you all. Have a great weekend.